Greetings, this is the Broken Meeple. Okay, yeah, seriously, this is not gonna work if I keep talking like that. Hi, I'm the Broken Meeple, and this is a bonus review courtesy of Zatu Games. And today I'm looking at a relatively new, kind of, I would say, programming take-that game, Dead Man's Doubloons. Yes, this is a straight-up pirate, in-your-face game, and I really mean in-your-face. More on that later. The idea of Dead Man's Doubloons is that all of you are, well, you're pirates, so what do you think you're going to do? You're trying to get money, you're trying to find treasure, and you're trying to end up with, well, yeah, have a guess, the most victory points.
Of course!
But the way you do it in this game is essentially how pirates always do this sort of thing. They sail around this island, they attack each other with cannons, they board each other's ships and steal things, they traipse around on a treasure island hoping to find lost loot, lost bonuses, and eventually the final treasure full of gems and diamonds. It is very much straight up an in-your-face pirate game. The theme here is particularly strong. Everything you do in this game is like being a pirate. This is probably one of the strongest pirate things I have seen for some considerable time. Now, if you're familiar with certain gateway games like Colt Express or Robo Rally, this has a very similar programming mechanic. You have a deck of cards of which you will have so many in your hand, and you will play 3 of them out each round face down simultaneously with the other players. These will in turn flip over, and you have a choice of one action out of 2, in order to perform on the card, as well as some optional and mandatory movement at times. The idea is that you're trying to plan your turn to line up with everyone else's so that you can attack them, steal from them, etc. But of course, everyone else is doing this, and if you've played any other programming game, chances are your plans will Afghan agley. Yeah, I know, I'm trying to be all like, mentally and posh and that. Yeah, basically, they can go wrong. And frequently, they do. That's generally the gist with this game. So each round you will do these 3 cards, you will perform these actions, and then you have a little cleanup, and then you rinse, repeat, and carry on until somebody has got to the final treasure on the island, at which point loot is divvied up. After that, there is a short kind of burst of the game where you carry on this killing and scheming and all sorts of things until eventually the game will end by way of a timer track based on the cards you play afterwards. If you get eliminated from the game in terms of being, a ship being blown to pieces, it's not entirely over. You can come back as a ghost ship with some slightly different rules and a chance of redemption. Now first up, let's just talk about the component quality. It is sound. We're not talking like the most stellar components ever in a board game, but this was a Kickstarter and this is the retail version. There's not much new in the Kickstarter Deluxe version. I think there was metal coins and 1 or 2 other little perks, but this, as a retail copy, is gorgeous. The artwork is vibrant and colourful and, generally really gorgeous. The tiles that you got are nice sturdy quality. You've got decent, fairly chunky, well not chunky, but fairly largish doubloon things that look like the cursed doubloons out of Pirates of the Caribbean. You've got these hard plastic ships which are slightly bendy, but they're also really durable. You struggle to get them out of the box, but you can actually really force them out because they will not break, or at least, I haven't made them break despite manhandling it quite, not exactly in the gentlest of fashions. It's just generally a solid production for the game, and it looks great when you got the board and all the ships going around it and everyone playing these almost tarot sized cards. It's just generally very good production, and props to the designers and publishers for making it so. The game plays 2 to 6 players and gives a quoted time on the box of 45 minutes. Now, take that with a pinch of salt. Now, you can do this game in about 45 minutes with 2, 3, maybe 4 players if you're lucky. Although, to be fair, I think you're looking 2 to 3 players for 45 minutes. 4 is probably more to an hour. 5 to 6 is more closer to 90 minutes. This game scales up in time when you add those players in, because bearing in mind, even though you selected cards simultaneously, you've got to resolve them all. More players equals more time and more chaos. The map doesn't scale with the players, so if you thought that the 4 water regions and the island was crowded with, say, 2 or 3 players, try playing it with 5 or 6. It is absolute carnage, but in a good way, because it's fun. It's fun that your programs get messed up. It's fun that the ships are moving around all over the place. Sometimes they can't help it. Sometimes you have a bit of choice, so it's not entirely beyond your control. And one thing with programming games that some people don't like is, oh, my plan got messed up, I can't do anything. Well, that was a waste of a turn. Not as much here, it's mitigated, because the cards have movement on them, yes, but sometimes it's optional. So you could always, if you play one of those cards, then you could choose whether you want to move or turn around. Secondly, each card has 2 actions on it. So when you play a card hoping to do one of the 2 actions on it. If you can't do that action for whatever reason, hopefully, most of the time, the second action is still doable, it just may not be the best thing you wanted at the time. So it's not exactly the best thing you can do on a turn, but it's certainly better than just sitting there and going, well, that sucked. And it will happen, your plans will get messed over. Now, the game is pretty light. There's a fair amount of dice rolling in it for combat. You're just playing a card, very simple actions, repair a ship, do a little bit of damage, do a little bit of damage in the next area. The one fiddly aspect is moving people across the island. You have these map tiles, and when you move, you select one of them, and anybody else who's got the same map tile moves with you. It's kind of weird, a little fiddly, but it's not too difficult to grasp. And you've got that little movement across the island aspect as well as the ships going round. So it's kind of like a dual layer game. I don't quite get why they have this, like, once you found the treasure, you have this period of the game where you shuffle more cards into the deck that are more powerful, and as you play one of those cards, your captain moves up a little timer on your track, and whoever gets to the finish ends the game there. That's kind of weird. It's almost like, right, we've played this game, now we're going to play this little mini game, then the game ends. It's kind of odd, but it helps to just keep things afresh after the treasure has been found. There is player elimination in this game, but it's not like, oh, you're out of the game and you just sit there with your arms folded, kind of annoyed at the person next to you who just killed you. Nah, what happens is that you become a ghost ship. And with the ghost ship, you have slightly different rules. So, the player who attacked you gets a little bonus for reputation and that for killing you. But when you're a ghost ship, you are immune to damage. You can still be boarded and have stuff nicked from you, but you don't have, like, any other sort of weird, nasty things. And the idea is that what you're trying to do is not finish the game as a ghost ship, because all your money and treasures become cursed and they're worth negative points, and that's not a good thing. So you could lose a lot of points if you're a ghost ship. The way to redeem yourself is to collect 5 more of the doubloons, and once you do, you cash them in and suddenly you spawn back to life. Think the sort of skeletal pirates out of Pirates of the Caribbean, except you're constantly shifting between undead and alive on a regular basis.
You best start believing in ghost stories, Miss Turner. You're in one.
And depending on the number of players, you can have quite a few ghost ships running around. In fact, the first game I played of this was a 6-player one, a full-on 6-player game. Absolute carnage. Good fun though, lots of laughs. I was the only survivor. I won the game as a result, but I was the only surviving ship at the end. There were 5 other ghost ships. That's how much of a carnage fest it became. But, it's funny when everyone's shifting in and out of ghost ship and not. Especially when you're thinking, oh, is the game going to end anytime soon? I kind of need to hurry up and not be a ghost. So, you've certainly got that theme, and it stops people just sitting there doing nothing. It gives you something to aim for, and it's not too difficult to get the 5 doubloons, but you still have to work at it. You can't just sit there and just wait for it to happen. It still takes effort, takes a little bit of planning. If there's any negatives I have about the game, it's more that it is a light game, it's light programming, it's light rules, it's not very difficult. But it takes a while for the game of how light it is. Most light games are done and dusted with in about 30 minutes, 60 max. Here the game box quotes 45, but your game could go on as long as 90 with 5 or 6 players. Once you're more used to the rules and you get into the swing of it, it may go faster, but you're talking 60 to 90 minutes for some of these games, and that's quite long for how light it is. Now, for some of you, that might not be a problem. You are having fun while playing this. There's very little downtime because you're playing the action simultaneously and they don't take long to resolve. And you are still having fun being a pirate. Some people will roleplay it. It is carnage like aplenty, especially with more players. But you are going to have to accept that the game goes on for a little bit longer than it should do for the weight that this game is. Now, the base game, is relatively simple enough, but you can also throw in a lot of optional modules. I swear these designers kind of couldn't decide how they wanted the game to be and just threw in a ton of modules, but you've got everything from as little as advanced scoring, which to be fair, throw in anyway. Why have only the basic scoring? Throw in all the scoring. You can also have black gems that give you a little bit of extra sort of attacking ability, but they're minus points at the end of the game. Again, throw them into every game. It's so simple. Why is it an optional module? The sort of medium level stuff is the sort of legendary ghost ship that sails around and attacks people on its own. Yeah, I'm not so keen on that one. It's more complexity, it doesn't really need it. And you can also have this weird rule where normally you board ships and steal a reputation with a particular card. With this rule, you actually swap seats with the other player and your ship is now theirs. It's kind of weird. It's fun from a party perspective. However, it doesn't come into play very much. You know, there's only so many cards that actually steal reputation, so it's a rule that's kind of odd, very party-ish, and yet doesn't actually see play as often as you might think. So it's kind of odd. I'm happy to just leave that one out, but it can be a barrel of laughs when it gets pulled off. The main extra module, though, that is worthy of note is the alternate side of the board. You can play on an alternate island with a different layout and a few extra special rules. That island setup is actually more preferable as a game, but it is slightly more complex than the original, and I don't recommend it for your first game. I say play with the base island, get used to how it plays, and then you can just flip it over and use the alternate island from that point. There is a lot of randomness in the game. You have to accept this because you are turning tiles over with random special bonuses. You are, drawing cards out of a deck, again, random. You have a hand size, but you're using most of that hand up, so there's only so much you can mitigate it by card draw. And of course you are rolling a die in combat, not to succeed at combat, you will always do damage, but to inflict other effects. So there is a good chunk of randomness, goes on a little bit long than it should, and is quite a light game. So be aware of that. But straight up pirate theme, good amount of sort of in your face take that game. I mean, this is very take that. If you don't like mean games, you don't like being wailed on at times, you're not going to like this. You need to be prepared because you're attacking people constantly. You're stealing their stuff. You are constantly being attacked. There is no way to be a pacifist in this game. You cannot. You have to get out there and get in people's faces, and of course, they're going to retaliate against you. And sometimes it may just simply be because you attacked them earlier. It may just be a vengeance thing. After all, pirates, what do you expect? So that's kind of the gist of the game it is. If it's a programming, heavy-themed pirate game, bit long, but good fun carnage, is basically what you think it is. It's a thematic pirate, in your face, go do what pirates do kind of game. It's solid enough. So for me, Dead Man's Doubloons, worthy of looking at if you're a fan of pirate games, programming games, or just straight up go and annoy other players type of games. It's very much like that. So, hope you've enjoyed this little bonus review for Zatu Games. This is Dead Man's Doubloons. If you like what you see, then please subscribe to my channel, the Broken Meeple. And if you like the game, then feel free to purchase it off Zatu Games. Take care. See you next time.